What is happening, Magnusites? Really? Really? Let's check this out.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and today we have some Spider-Man 4 updates, and I'm talking about two different Spider-Man 4s.
That's what I was about to ask.
Today about two different Spider-Man 4s. One, of course, about our current MCU Spider-Man, Tom Holland, and Zendaya returning along with Jacob Batalon, and the other Spider-Man 4, of course, being the Sam Raimi, Toby Maguire Spider-Man 4. We also have some details about the official runtime for Thor Love and Thunder, not to mention when that second trailer is going to be coming. Should be coming next week, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
It's over
and
2
of course,
hours.
we have to talk about the new Daredevil Disney Plus show that is coming from Marvel Studios. It is officially in the works, and we know a little bit of details about what to expect from that, including what other shows Daredevil is going to tie into. We'll break down all of this awesome news in this video, and of course, if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news. So, the first Spider-Man 4 that we'll talk about is the one that is with Tom Holland, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, and John Watts directing. Now, this is kind of interesting because this new report states that Sony wants John Watts back to direct the future Spider-Man films. However, recently, according to our knowledge, John Watts backed out of directing the Fantastic Four because he needed a break from superhero films. But Sony seems to be fairly confident that John Watts is going to come back to direct the next Spider-Man film. And according to Sony, they want to start working on it soon. And this information is actually coming directly from the source, as direct as it can get, with Sony chairman Tom Rothman doing an interview with Deadline. They talked about a lot in this interview, but then Deadline went on to talk about those who doubted Sony's strategy and underestimated their franchise's strength, in which Rothman replied that they have Uncharted, Jumanji, Spider-Man. He says, "We have our Marvel business, which breaks into 3 tranches. There are the Spider-Man movies, and we're currently at work on 2 Spider-Verse sequels to our Oscar-winning animated movie with Lord and Miller." And then he says, "We hope to get working on the next Spider-Man movie," in which Deadline then asked him, with John Watts, Tom Holland, and Zendaya returning, and Rothman replied with, "That whole group, we hope." Side note, he also goes into a little bit of their other projects, saying that then there are movies I would call adjunct to the Spider-Man universe. That's Kraven, which we're shooting now, and Madam Web, which will start in the spring with S.J. Clarkson directing. And then there are many Marvel characters that are standalone. So it looks like Sony has quite a bit of plans for their Marvel Spider-Man universe. But obviously the biggest takeaway here is that Sony wants to start on the next Spider-Man film soon. And they hope, and probably expect, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon to return, but also John Watts to possibly direct the next trilogy. He did a pretty great job with the Homecoming trilogy, so I'm sure people would love to have him back. And if they're going to continue the same story that Spider-Man No Way Home left off with, it would be great to have him back, and it looks like that's their plan. They are going to stick to continuing the story of everybody forgetting who Peter Parker was, including MJ and Ned. And this is made pretty apparent since Rothman says that they want the whole group back. You're obviously not going to have them back if you're not going to continue the story. You can't just start a new story. So for those of you who were wondering if Zendaya is going to return as MJ and Jacob returning as Ned, it looks like they are. And I'm going to assume that at whatever end this comes to, whether that's another 3 Spider-Man films or just a Spider-Man 4, whatever it is going to end with MJ and Ned remembering who Peter Parker is and hopefully remembering everything that they went through. However, this is not the only Spider-Man 4 that fans want to know about. Ever since Spider-Man No Way Home brought together the 3 different generations of Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Toby Maguire, fans have just been loving it. And a bunch of reports came out after the movie was released that have been stating that Sony wants and has plans for Toby Maguire Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, possibly wanting to give us a Spider-Man 4 with Toby Maguire. After all, Sam Raimi and Toby Maguire were supposed to do 4 Spider-Man films, but they only got to do 3. And Sam Raimi and Toby Maguire opened up about that and said that it was pretty hard on them. Now Sam Raimi is back directing for Marvel. Of course, he recently directed Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And now a lot of people are wondering if he could possibly direct the MCU Spider-Man now. Perhaps direct the next Tom Holland trilogy. However, Sam Raimi says that he is not going to be directing any Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Now it's not because he doesn't like Tom Holland as Spider-Man or he doesn't like those films. It's actually because he loves and respects Toby Maguire too much. In a recent interview with the Los Angeles Times, Sam Raimi praised Spider-Man No Way Home for opening up the multiverse and bringing some of his old friends into one movie. He also had really great things to say about Tom Holland and the direction that those films went. He said, "I love Spider-Man, and I love Tom Holland in the role, but if I made a Spider-Man movie, it would probably have to be with Toby, or he'd break my neck." And I love that. I love that he started it with Toby Maguire with their 3 Spider-Man films. And if he were to come back and do Spider-Man, he would want that Spider-Man to be Toby because that's been his buddy for all these years. And it sounds like Sam Raimi is actually open to returning, which would make sense because he just directed Multiverse of Madness, a Marvel film. In fact, he says he's definitely open to coming back to direct a Spider-Man 4 if Marvel is up for it. In the same interview, he said, "I don't know if Marvel would be interested in that right now. I don't know what their thoughts are about that. I haven't really pursued that, but it sounds beautiful. Even if it wasn't a Spider-Man movie, I'd love to work with Toby again in a different role." This is great news because in all of the interviews after Spider-Man No Way Home was released, Toby Maguire said that right now he's up for anything. So it looks like Sam Raimi and Toby Maguire are both up for Spider-Man 4. The only thing that kind of needs to happen now is that Sony and Marvel need to greenlight it. I personally really hope this happens. And there were a lot of reports and a lot of talk after the movie was released stating that this is a big possibility and that the studios are actually talking about it, which would make sense because Spider-Man No Way Home was a massive success. So fingers crossed that things work out for both Spider-Man 4s. Now for some Thor Love and Thunder news, in case you haven't heard, there are some big reports out there stating that the Thor Love and Thunder second trailer should be coming this Monday. Now as far as what time it could drop, I believe the first trailer dropped at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So if they're planning on dropping it as the same time that they dropped the first trailer, that's when you can expect it, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Also, this is not a final confirmation and things could always change, but according to the website cineworld.co.uk, the runtime for Thor Love and Thunder is going to be 140 minutes. So 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Again, this could always change and may not be accurate, but this is listed on their official site. Now, of course, to finish this off, we have to talk about the big news. Marvel Studios is officially developing a Daredevil Disney Plus series. This report is coming from Variety, who are very big and very reputable. They get a lot of exclusives, and of course, there's really no reason to not believe that a Daredevil show is coming. It's been rumored for a while now, and of course, we saw him in Spider-Man No Way Home. And according to some old reports, we're actually supposed to see Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock / Daredevil in the MCU a few times before the series actually comes out. Now, we know we're going to be seeing him in the She-Hulk series. Jennifer Walters is a New York lawyer, so is Matt Murdock. And they both represent superheroes. So it just makes sense that their paths would cross at least a little bit. But then we just got word that the Echo series, of course, is coming to the MCU, which we knew about, but has now been officially announced. And if you know anything about Daredevil and Echo in the comics, they're lovers. They are really, really important to each other. Plus, not to mention the main villain of the Echo series should be Kingpin, and of course we've already seen him in Hawkeye. And according to some reports, the events of the Echo series are actually going to lead into the Daredevil series. So it sounds like he's gonna be in Echo as well. And hopefully this all eventually leads to a big fight against Kingpin with Spider-Man, with She-Hulk, with Echo, and Daredevil. Ultimately, I hope it leads to a true Sinister Six film, and they could have 5 other heroes joining Spider-Man to fight the Sinister Six. And that's it for our awesome Marvel news this week. Be sure to let me know what you are most excited about in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Marvel content. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.
Yes. Very excited. Thank you for telling me that, Wonder. I did not know that they were, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, give us that Spider-Man 4. I cannot wait. Yes, with Toby. We already know Tom's doing well. Tom, we're going to get another trilogy with Tom. We're already ready for that, but we need that Toby and the Andrew Garfield, but we need that 4 that we never got. I love this time in movies in history for a lot of reasons. Some reasons are issues, but some reasons I really like this time in history with movies, and one of them is that we see a lot of things we just never thought we would see, and these crossovers and different stuff like that they wouldn't do years ago. Man, you just had to. You only saw it in the comics, and we're seeing it now, and I just love it. So, post comments down below. Let me know what y'all thought. If you enjoyed my reaction, make sure you Hit the like button, subscribe, and share.